Hello, Dr. Lin.
Okay.
There's no one.
Hello.
Hello.
So I was trying to display my slides again.
Yeah, please. You can share your slides.
I can't click on that arrow button. I can't upload my file over here.
Is it because of poor signals? Internet
But I
signals?
click on it, nothing's happening.
Is it
Nothing's
being
happening.
developed? It's happening? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I can't. Nothing's happening. I've clicked a few times.
Okay.
Or maybe I will use the other account. I think the other account I could still show my slides.
Yeah, maybe you can switch to the other account, whatever you're
Okay.
comfortable.
All right.
We thought just try with your second account, but anyway, it did not work. So you can get back to your first one.
Okay,
And
thanks.
maybe you can start your system again, Dr. Lin. Sometimes,
Okay.
maybe that will help you.
I'll try. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? We are all fine. Just
start now.
Yeah. We are just waiting for the presenter to be. Yeah. And I'm really thankful for your patience. But then, yeah, she's looking into certain things, and she'll be back in a few minutes.
No problem. We are waiting. No problem. Take your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hello, I'm back.
Yes.
Change your room.
I'll try. Same problem here, funnily.
Yeah. Now, can you share your slides, Dr. Lin?
Okay.
Yeah.
Slideshow.
Okay.
Is it now? Where you get that slideshow?
Yeah, but it is not in slide show mode. Well, again, I can see the panel on my left with other slides. Well, let's continue. Before Dr. Lin begins her presentation, dear friends, On behalf of Professional Development Committee, English Language Center, UTAS Ibri, that is University of Technology and Applied Sciences, I extend a hearty welcome to the esteemed speaker of the day, Dr. Siew Fong from Malaysia. I think she's ready with her presentation, I'm sure. We will have wonderful takeaways from her presentation. And before we start with the presentation, let me quickly introduce, just give me a minute, yeah. Dr. Lin received her PhD from University of Malaya. Hello?
Pardon?
Please.
Hello, pardon? Sorry, I can't really hear you.
Can you hear me now? Am I
Okay,
clear?
yes, I can.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Siew Fong received a PhD from University of Malaya, that is Malaysia. She is a senior lecturer in the Department of English Studies and the Faculty of Social Science and Humanities at Tunku Abdul Rahman University College, Malaysia. She is presently teaching liberal arts education courses, English for proficiency courses, and English for specific courses at tertiary level. Her research interests are primarily focused on teacher education, classroom management, teaching methodology, and material and curriculum development. Her work has been widely published in local journals, international journals, ebooks, and school workbooks. Well, that's an interesting background, Dr. Lin, and it's very rich, and I'm sure you'll have those wonderful experiences sharing with us the presentation. And as far as the abstract is concerned, or today's presentation is concerned, it is titled as Insights and Reflections from a Teacher Researcher. Let me repeat, Insights and Reflections from a Teacher Researcher. That's an interesting title. And she will be talking about insights gained during her 3 decades as a teacher researcher, and she will be focusing on research, professional development, and personal development. And as a researcher, I think the information shared will encourage other teacher researchers to become optimistic and positive, which will then result in them having rich experiences throughout their professional and personal journeys. So this is what she's going to share with us during her presentation. And those who have questions, at the end of the session, they will be given 10 minutes where they can exchange their views and get interesting answers from the presenter today. And we will also send a link for feedback and also attendance somewhere in the middle of the presentation or at the end of the presentation. So stay tuned and let's enjoy the presentation. Yes, Dr. Lin, you can begin.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and thank you, Prof. Faisal, PD Committee from the Oman University of Applied Sciences. I feel so privileged to be able to share with you on my 3 decades of teaching and also doing research. I don't claim that I'm the wise person here because I realize that I'm still learning, but it's a time for me to share what I have actually gained throughout these years because it's good for me. As a matter of fact, I'll be retiring next month. So it's like a kind of way for me to wrap up my whole journey of teaching and also doing research. Okay, I will share with you my slides now. Okay, so the title of this paper is Insights and Reflections from a Teacher Researcher. And for those of you who have missed out on my institution, I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I'm from Tunku Abdul Rahman University College. As I wrote this paper, it was a bit challenging for me. I was trying so hard to compartmentalize all my knowledge and all my experiences into this about 30 to 40-minute talk. After giving it much thought, I decided to narrow it down to 3 areas of my work and also regarding my life. The 3 areas they are pertaining to my research, my professional pathway, and also my personal development. Firstly, I will talk about my experiences as a researcher. My research areas are teaching methodology and classroom management. The reasons for focusing on these areas are: one, is due to my training. I received training in the area of education. Therefore, my focus is in this area. And another reason which actually caused me to continue conducting research for a number of years is due to the fact that I see our classrooms as dynamic. I find conducting researches on my learners, in the way they learn, in the process of acquiring knowledge, very interesting, because I'm dealing with something which is very dynamic. What may work in one class may not work in another, and I would like to find out why is that so. That's the reason I could actually conduct years and years of research, because I want to find out answers as to why some learners may not respond to certain methodologies and to certain pedagogies. Throughout these years, I've conducted researches in the areas of collaborative learning, peer tutoring, collaborative writing, use of student talk, discussions and visuals in promoting writing, and understanding the influence of personality profiles where students learn in the classroom. I am very much influenced by Learner Personality Inventory, or LPI, which is used to understand how students differ from one to another. I would also like to find out how I could further refine my methods of teaching in the classroom. Even though I've been teaching for a number of years, I will not be brave enough to say that this is the way to teach, because I am still learning. There is a need for teachers to study critical incidents in their classrooms. I'm very much in favor of having teachers picking up certain episodes in their classrooms and then focusing on them and studying them more. And when we do so, we'll be able to improve on our practices, and we are also able to understand our learners better. And someone once said, if we are unable to be emotionally involved with our learners may not be able to learn well. It is when the teacher-researcher forms a very strong friendship with the learners. That's when learning starts and research starts. I will explain a bit about LPI, or Learner Personality Profile. There are different personality profiles listed under LPI. They are openness, neutral, analytical, relational, and decisive. And I found out that it's very important for me to use these profiles in understanding my learners. Before I've actually done in-depth study using LPI, there are times I must admit I tend to judge my learners very quickly. Oh, this is a bad student, or this is a good student. But as I discover their psychological makeup, I begin to see them as just unique human beings. And empowered by this knowledge, I found out that it has actually helped me a lot in my personal growth, and it has also helped me to reduce conflict, be it among students, colleagues, family members, and so on. It's because we have to understand that individuals are different. We need not be packaged in the neat little boxes in order to be accepted by people. We have to understand that we are different and we have this unique makeup. In addition, I have also experienced less stress in trying to meet up to the expectations of people. When I try my best to become someone that I'm not, it's actually very difficult because I am not that. And when I have this knowledge in hand, I begin to understand learners better, and I also learn to understand myself better, and it also helped me to understand my colleagues better. Initially, when I started researching, I focused mainly in the area of ESL, which is very close to my heart, English as Second Learner Studies. But upon my transfer from Languages Department to the Department of Social Sciences, in the Faculty of Social Science, Arts and Humanities, I was exposed to different areas. And through my research collaboration with my colleagues in the Department of Social Science, I started doing cross research with them, and I found out that I have actually gained so much. I have begun to discover that my passion and my enthusiasm actually grew a lot during those years. let's face it, sometimes it can be a little bit boring, a little bit dry if you focus only on one particular area of study. But when we are able to open up ourselves to different areas of study, it makes our research so much more rewarding, and it also helps us to learn more. And furthermore, by being in the Department of Social Science, I have begun to realize that it's very important for me to adopt ethical and humanistic approaches in conducting my studies, especially in the classroom. And when I've learned to be more ethical, I've learned to be more careful in following ethics as a researcher, I've discovered that I actually grow closer to my participants and my learners, and we have actually very interesting friendships after that. And I also like conducting my studies because I discovered that I learn different things in all my studies. And I have this paradigm shift. In the past, when I first started doing my research, I have often viewed myself as a sage on the stage. It's like, oh, I know everything. I remember when I was doing my master's, my supervisor challenged me when she asked me things like, okay, Lynn, what do you expect to collect from your study? And then I cleverly told her, oh, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, I'm going to get this. And she got very annoyed with me and asked me, if you know the answers, then why are you conducting this study? Why bother? And it made me take a step back and begin to reflect. There are times we researchers, we tend to think that we know it all. And sadly, we do not know it all. In these 3 decades of conducting my research, I discovered that it's better to be a guide on the side rather than to be a sage on the stage, because sometimes the sage may look very foolish because the sage may not be updated in her knowledge, and the sage may not be in the know of many things. And when I lower down myself as only a guide on the side, I gain so much rich data. I began to understand the struggles my learners face in their studies. And I began to understand, how do I refine the way I teach in order to reach out to my students. And it also makes me more sensitive towards understanding the vignettes and the critical incidents which occurs in my classroom. To be frank, there are times we teachers can get very busy and we tend to just brush aside certain episodes in our classrooms. But by becoming a researcher, it makes me more sensitive towards them. It makes me want to find out answers. In many occasions, I've been very much humbled by my participants' patience, enthusiasm, wisdom, maturity, and sacrifice, which have resulted in smooth process of data collection, and we also managed to form strong bonds of friendships. I could still remember when I was collecting data for my PhD. I have this wonderful group of participants. They were so enthusiastic, they were so excited, and they were telling me things like, because they know me well as a friend, they wanted to give me rich data for me to write my PhD thesis. I think this is something that many of us actually really wish for, because we get participants who understand that we need the data in order to write our thesis. And it really, really humbled me. I began to see as like, I need not always need to be in charge. I always need not always see that I should plan the way I collect my data, but by forming strong bonds of friendships with my participants, I'm able to collect rich data. And I must give them credit for my ability to produce regular yearly conference papers and publications in journals and ebooks throughout my years of working in my UC. And I would like to also harp on this matter that it is important for us to be ethical as researchers. And for me, I always push myself to prepare my conference papers and also my journals be written 1 year ahead. And it's because I will discipline myself not to recycle journals or recycle data, when I wish to write new journals or new articles or present conference papers. It's because I realized that when I do so, I'm allowing myself to be a bit more relaxed in my approach towards research. And consequently, I have to plan my time very well in order to have yearly conference papers and journals for me to publish every year. And honestly speaking, it wasn't a very easy task for me. Most of my annual leave of days they are spent on doing my research. And I felt that I was turning into a workaholic. I was either teaching or I would be researching. And I found myself very, very stressed out. And I would like to mention a very important person, my former associate dean, Dr. Cecilia Chai. She actually discovered that I was turning into a workaholic. And one day she patiently pulled me aside and advised me, it is very good for you to publish all these papers, but the thing is you need work-life balance. There's no reason for you to churn out papers after papers when your health is affected. And I would like to say here that I'm very grateful to her because she actually alerted to me the fact that I could actually be heading in affecting my health adversely if I were to continue this kind of way of working. And it's because of her I began to be nicer to myself, and I will make sure that I take time to rest, even though I would like to produce conference papers and journals on a yearly basis. Secondly, I would like to highlight some lessons I have learned in my professional pathway. It is very important for teachers to be lifelong learners. And when I talk about lifelong learners, it's not just getting degrees, professional qualifications, but we need to also update our technical and social skills. I would like to borrow Crescent's input hypothesis to help me to be able to convince you of the importance of having the +1 in our classroom. If you look at the formula I + 1, if we talk about the I, the input, in this age and generation, in this age, many of the younger generations, they could get information from Google, from books, from talking to people. Sometimes they may not even need us. If they are hardworking, they are able to get a lot of knowledge, a lot of information from various sources. And we as teachers, we should be challenged to have the +1 for them in our classroom. I've often asked myself this, how do I make sure my learners feel that it is worthwhile to attend my classes? How do I make sure that my learners will say, oh, I need to go to her class because I do not understand this theory? And the challenge here is we teachers will often need to be like one step or even a few steps ahead of our learners. In order to gain the +1, I have painstakingly make sure that I do 3 things. Firstly, I'm an avid reader. I have read many books and I make sure that I read different genres as well. Like I often told my students, I will be reading 2 books at one time. This is because I want to make sure that I have a lot of knowledge for me to share with my learners. There was one time I was facing this kind of gap in communication with my computer science students. And when I began to read more stories, sci-fi, fantasy books, I discovered that I began to be able to enter their world. And when I talk to them about certain computer science matters like hacking, the dark World Wide Web and all that, they were very impressed because at first they thought that I would not know all these things. But when I started talking to them and sharing with them, I gained their respect. Another method in which I'm able to gain input is by conducting researches on my students. I have this kind of positive way of looking at problematic learners. I will study them. In the past, before I am very involved in research, I tend to see them as just, problematic learners. But when I take research seriously, I will tell myself, no, don't label them as problematic. Find out why they are problematic, or they may not even be problematic. It could be problems with the way I teach, it could be problems with the syllabus, it could be problems with the environment, it could be problems with society. So when I have that kind of open-mindedness, I've discovered that I can actually learn so much. The third method in which I managed to get input is I will open up my eyes and my ears to what is happening around me. I will read newspapers. I will make sure that I know what's happening in the world so that I can understand certain problems which people face in general and which will affect my learners. I will spend time thinking about the problems, talking to people, reading up to find out how those problems can be overcome. And even if some problems cannot be overcome, I will not feel defeated, but I will tell myself I have some knowledge about it. And how do I actually play my role in helping my learners not make the kind of mistakes in their lives? It is crucial for teachers to embrace technology in their work, especially during this time when we have COVID-19 in the picture. With the presence of COVID-19, our teachers' lives have been changed 360 degrees. In the past, I was so comfortable in my little cocoon. I have my ever familiar physical classrooms equipped with facilities such as whiteboards, smart blackboards, personal computers, and LCD projectors. However, when our institution was forced to close in order to carry out online learning, I found out that everything changed and my little cocoon disappeared overnight. Consequently, I have to creatively provide all equipment needed for my teaching in the comfort of my home. And I really enjoy discovering things like which kind of laptops do I purchase, microphones, USB hubs, cooling pads, and how do I improve the Wi-Fi internet connection in my home, and so on and so forth. Initially, I was daunted. At my age, I was like so terrified. But when I pushed myself to learn and to change my mentality, I discovered that I could actually cope with it. And I would like to encourage many teachers out there, if you feel that you're unable to cope with it, you think about me, right? A 50 plus teacher who has been teaching for the past, I must say, 29 years using blackboards, whiteboards, comfortably in the classrooms. And now I have to change. If I can change, I think you can change better than me too, right? And I've also discovered that it's very important to work with people. I must give credit to my younger but patient colleagues who have provided much assistance to me whenever I face technical challenges. And many of my young colleagues, they are great. Whenever I have problems with softwares, with apps, and so on, they will eagerly help me out. And we will also discuss on how we can improve on our online teaching. Now I'll focus on my personal growth. Thirdly, teachers, researchers will need to be lifelong learners. According to Toffler 1970, people who are considered illiterate in the 21st century are not applied to illiterate individuals, but to those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. With this in my mind, I will challenge myself to learn new things, to change the way I think, and also to reflect and to check on how I could further improve in my classrooms. We should not limit ourselves in improving continually. Sadly, sometimes it is our mind. When we say things like, I can't do it, definitely we are unable to do it. But if we really tell ourselves, I can always try, if I make mistakes, it's fine, I learn from them, and then I move on, you will discover that there are just so many things that you can actually learn, and you can actually learn it very well. This process of allowing us to gain knowledge, updating our skills, stimulating our brain cells, will foster the joy of learning in us. And when we have the love for knowledge, we will be able to display in our classrooms, be it in real physical classrooms or in online classrooms. Our learners will be able to pick up the kind of excitement that we have about gaining knowledge and also about learning new things. And when we influence them to be able to love knowledge, we're actually helping them for the future. I will talk more afterwards about this. I have personally benefited from my honest discussions with my learners on the use of technology and social media platforms. In my physical classrooms in the past, whenever I face technical problems, I will ask my students for help. And I realized that it does wonders to their confidence level. I used to have like some of these very shy, very quiet learners in my classroom who do not show much interest in my lessons. But when I ask them for help, technical help, they will come forward to help me, and they are so willing to share their skills with me. And as a result, you become closer than before. In addition, being a social scientist, I've increased my understanding of social issues such as communication problems, addictions, power abuse, bullying, poverty, and depression. Sadly, our learners are facing many challenges in their lives. I would say that when I was a student in the past, I was not exposed to too many of these things, which actually, in a way, is a blessing. But right now, our learners, they are facing so many problems which require teachers to understand and to help them to overcome these problems. And when I'm able to understand them better, it makes me more effective as a teacher. I'm not only teaching them English, I'm not only teaching them grammar rules, but I'm actually teaching them things about life. The challenge for teachers, researchers today is this: we have to remain relevant and competitive in this ever-changing world. I attended a conference in the year 2019, IELTCON. It was in Penang, Malaysia, and IELTCON stands for International English Language Teaching Conference 2019. The reason for me to highlight certain things which I learned from the conference is it actually changed the way I teach my learners. According to Wright 2019, he said that we teachers should be aware of the fact that we are training students for jobs which might not even be in existence yet. As a matter of fact, this morning when I was reading the newspapers, according to LinkedIn, in 5 years to come, there'll be like around 50 million new jobs which will be created. And we teachers sadly may not even be in the know or what kind of jobs our students are going to be doing when they graduate. So we teachers will have to know this. How do I prepare my learners for that? In addition, Davenport 2019 in the conference too highlighted this, that teachers should be preparing to educate students for fluid working environment. In the past, we will train learners to be working in offices in a very fixed physical setting, but right now, it looks like our learners may not even have their own offices, they may not even have their own rooms for them to work in. How do we as teachers prepare them for that? Another piece of information which I've gained is by Keys 2019. He mentioned on how teachers should not shirk away from technology, but we should encourage our learners to try new technology, to be willing to learn and not to be discouraged by how difficult certain things are. But we would challenge ourselves to want to improve throughout our lives. Many jobs have become irrelevant with the unavoidable wave of change through the implementation of the fourth industrial revolution. And many jobs are now taken over by robots, by machines, and so on. And the challenge right now is this: how do we teachers make our learners understand the roles they will play in the future? And I feel that an area of research which will be very relevant is how can we researchers discover how machines can function with human beings in this world. What kind of skills do our learners need in order to help them to function at the workplace? Teachers should often view themselves as agents rather than objects of social change. That's by Ball 2013. Sometimes we teachers can get very troubled easily by problems that we often see that we are experiencing the effects of change. But it's good for us to see it this way. We can be in control of the change. When we show that we're in control of the changes around us, we will also motivate our learners as to how to lead their lives well. According to Bond 2016, they should not only possess a certain outlook on the world, but have required skills and contribute to influencing education at different levels. The challenge is this: teachers themselves will need to learn alongside with their learners in order to help them to learn new things and to be able to embrace changes in this world. Changes, I must say, yes, can be painful, and I will often avoid it at all costs. But sadly, if we do not have changes in our lives, we may not be able to grow. And I will share with you as to how I embrace changes. First, I will normally pray to God. I must say that I'm a coward. I've actually postponed doing my master's for a number of years because I fear doing so. And then after 10 years, I was forced to do it because I was told that my institution was going to be upgraded. Therefore, it's good for me to get my master's. So I'm just like that. If you do not force me to do something, I won't do it because I fear changes. I will also read many self-help books. These books help me to change my paradigm. They help me to change my mentality so that I will be more positive. Thirdly, I will socialize with positive people. And I will find out what makes them tick. Why are they so positive? Why are they so happy? And I will try to follow what they're doing. Fourthly, I will psyche myself through positive thoughts and not to dwell on the negatives. If I've made a mistake, say I've scolded my learner in my classroom because I was moody, I will tell myself, don't get upset. You're a human. Yes, be nicer to them in the future, right? And I will also see mistakes as stepping stones to success. When I make mistakes, I do not dwell on it. I will see how I can learn from them and then move on. And lastly, I spend a number of hours listening to motivational talks and songs. And these are actually very effective. I listen to them almost every day when I was in my physical office. It's because they help to keep me going. When I look back at the changes I have resisted initially, but then have managed to overcome them, be it at work, in my research, in friendships, and in my personal life, I realized that I was just too reluctant to face changes because of my fear of the unknown. I need to conquer my imaginary giants before I can focus on the challenges. And when I myself do not grow and I do not accept changes in my life, how could I actually prepare my learners to face a world which is changing so rapidly, and they may not even know the kind of work that they'll be doing when they graduate? So I myself must conquer my fears before I actually encourage my learners to do so. Okay, I've reached the conclusion. I treasure all the experiences which I've gained as a teacher researcher in these 3 decades. They've enabled me to grow and increase in my level of knowledge. And I would like to cite from Herbert 1915, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But I would like to modify mine into, when life throws you more lemons, make more lemonade. And according to Oliver 2001, it is advisable to always see a situation with half full, empty mentality. We should not focus on how empty the glass is, but we should focus on how full the glass is of water, for example. We have to learn to be positive and optimistic so that you'll be able to have rich experiences in our professional and personal journeys. These are my list of references. Okay, before I end, I would like to thank the various authors whom I borrowed citations from, and I would like to thank this photographer, František, for the beautiful photographs which I've used in my PowerPoint slides. With that, I would like to have a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lin. It was an insightful presentation indeed, and reflections were really rich. The takeaways of this presentation were very, very interesting, and I'm sure the audience have enjoyed this throughout. Well, personally, I have enjoyed it a lot, and I would expect the same from others. So now,
Thank you.
well, the questions from the audience, you can just, you have 10 minutes, and meanwhile, I'll also share the link for feedback and attendance. You also fill the form so that we can get your interesting feedback, and of course your attendance will be noted. And the second thing is, I know there was some technical problem, so she could not share her slides from her end. There was a problem, and please, in 6 business days, we will share the files, the recording, everything with our audience. So please give us some time. You will have all the information from our end. Now you can ask her the questions. Well, she's ready for that.
Okay, thank you.
You can just click on the hand icon so that she can answer all the questions. I just want to push the link.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Well, if you have any questions, we're still waiting for the questions from the audience. I shall be too happy to answer the questions. Dr. Lin, we have
Yes.
missed out many things while doing our research. You know, the kind of experience you shared with us, they were great reminders for us, and I'm sure we will be looking into these things while carrying out our research or professional lives or while interacting with people. That social wisdom which you shared with us was really, it was a kind of an eye-opener for us. Thank you so much, Dr. Lin.
You're welcome.
Yeah. We'll wait for a
Thanks
few
for
more
having me.
minutes for the audience to share their questions. We're still waiting if somebody wants to.
I think there are some questions here.
Somebody can just push it.
It's from A. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrongly. Lash. How can we incorporate traditional teaching methods in blended learning? Very good question. I am still discovering it. But I would say that basically online teaching is not that different. It's just that we have to maybe make our online lessons more interesting, more appealing, but we still use the same kind of notes or PowerPoint slides that we usually use in our regular classroom. My experience throughout this 1.5 years of teaching online is I've discovered that our learners, especially the first year students, they love videos, they love songs, they love movies, and I usually sandwich my lessons with all these things so that it will make them interact more, it will help them to be interested in my lesson. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, those who want to ask questions, they can raise their hands, they can and unmute themselves, you know, to get the answers from her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sorry,
no,
do I answer the questions in the chat box first, or do I answer the questions from those with their hands raised?
whatever way you're comfortable. Whatever
Oh,
way
okay.
you're comfortable
Okay.
in.
Maybe I will, Suhashini, yeah?
Yeah.
What's the question?
There is a question called, can there be other learning methods to intellect, from Putrika Bakshi? Can there be other learning methods to intellect? That's what she says. And there is another question from Mr. Javed. How could we make our class more interesting even when students are not interested to learn?
Okay. Sorry, I didn't get the first question. Could you please repeat the first question?
Yeah, the first question, can there be other learning methods which appeal to intellect?
Oh, okay. I was trained this way when I was studying for my master's and my PhD. My lecturers do not really give us answers. They will make us think and apply our knowledge, and then we will have discussion on all these kind of theories and so on and so forth. And what I like about their way of teaching is they do not brush off our answers as wrong or is ridiculous. I remember my professor saying this, that's a great idea. You are right. And we were also stunned because at that time, we often feel that we look up to our professors for answers. I think in order to make our students get interested in theories and lessons, it's good for them to do their research and then to come back to the classroom to discuss the information they have found, and the lecturer should encourage them that the quest of knowledge is as such, there is no fixed right or wrong answer. Okay, I hope I answered the first question. Okay, the second question, I'm afraid I'm facing the same issue as all of you. How do you make reluctant learners learn? My 1.5 years of teaching online is a bittersweet experience. Some of them, they were so excited, they were so eager to come to class, but some of them are just so difficult for me to manage them. Like I have learners who will switch on their laptops and they run off. And when I call out their names for attendance, they're not there. And it really frustrates me. I think what we can do is we should set aside some time to talk to them. Like when I have this kind of students, I will let them stay back and I will talk to them on a one-to-one basis to find out what their problems are. And I'm not saying that I know the answer because it's a bit hard. Like I will just share with you my experience. There was one student of mine who refused to turn on his camera during his presentation. And when I asked him, he said, "Oh, I'm too ugly." And I was taken aback. What I did was I referred to my psychology colleagues and they actually give me some ways. So I think maybe we can collaborate with other colleagues in order to get some ideas on how to handle them. Sadly, I also do not know the answer as to how to manage that. Okay, Lobna.
Lubna, yes, there is a question from Ms. Lubna. Ms. Lubna, you can just unmute yourself and then ask the question.
Okay.
Hello, Ms. Lubna. Okay. Well, there is an interesting question here. Let me just. We cannot unmute his.
Hello.
Oh,
just
Hello.
a minute. Yeah. You can ask the question.
Now,
you can unmute yourself and ask the
yes,
question.
yes. Now it's audible. Thank you.
Yeah.
sorry,
Ma'am,
I can't really hear you.
I want to ask you some question. That do you think that pedagogical skills have a great impact upon learning deficiencies? Some students have not so capable of learning, and do you think that pedagogy affect their learning?
Okay, so your question is, do pedagogies affect learning? My answer is yes and no. Yes, meaning if you are going to get a young man who's going to teach, he will need to pick up certain things about pedagogy in order to use it in the classroom per se, meaning he will need to have the knowledge in order to help him to get started. But along the way, where we hold fast too much to pedagogies, at times it can be a barrier because we feel that we know enough and our learners are not responding to us. Therefore, the problem is with them. And like I've said just now, the world is changing at a very frightening pace. Our learners are faced with so many things that we may not be aware of. So we will have to be a bit more sensitive to really see how we can adapt what we have. It can be even be eclectic. We will have to see how we can use creativity in order to help them to learn well. It could be a lifelong quest. Even though I'll be retiring next month, I'll think I do not know anything about teaching. I'm still learning.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so
Welcome.
much for replying.
Welcome. All
Yeah,
right, so
there is
I'll go back.
one question from Mr. Riaz. Yeah, what advice would you give me? I'm a dinosaur. How can I motivate myself to embark on research? That's the question.
Okay.
Seems to be an interesting question.
Yes, it is. I will just say this. See as like you're helping your learners. One thing which drives me to conduct research is this. I'm telling myself I'm helping my learners to learn better, and I'm helping myself to become more effective when I teach them. So this drives me to keep on wanting to improve. So this desire to do so keeps me going.
Okay.
Shall I go
I
back
think
to the chat box?
yeah, you can.
Okay. So Putika Bakshi has a question here. How to motivate the kids in this pandemic as being the faculty? Okay. Tough question here. Like I said, I'm also learning how to actually be effective in my online classes. And I will often challenge myself to see it this way. My learners could be facing many problems at home, like when I have a learner who is unwilling to participate in my class. I will try to understand maybe his family could be facing financial issues, they could be facing certain challenges in their lives at this point in time. I need to be more patient. And it pays to be patient and also to talk to these learners on a one-to-one basis to find out what is actually happening. However, I will not say that everything is their like success stories. I have a few learners who actually left their classes midway the semester. And when I tried talking to them, trying to get them to talk to me, they just clam up and they just left. So this is a struggle, I think, for all of us teachers. I do not really know the answer, but I will share with you this way. I normally will play a motivational kind of movie, song, or video for my learners in every class. And I will get them to reflect, and then they will, because in my UC, we use Google Meet, they will talk about their feelings, they will talk about the challenges they face, and then we will discuss this in the classroom. Okay. The
Okay.
next question is,
Yeah. Does
thank
technology made a gap between students and teachers? This is from Mr. Satish Kumar.
pardon?
Does the technology made a gap between students and teachers?
Yes, I agree.
Does it increase the gap?
Yes, I agree. I get frustrated teaching my students online because I cannot see them. And it's so hard for me to form bonds
Could you
of friendship with them
please
because
switch camera, Miss Liliwa? Sorry to interrupt,
oh, okay.
Dr. Lena.
Um,
Yeah, could please continue.
yes, it's a challenge because we are unable to see them, we're unable to build up strong bonds of friendship with them. There is a gap there. But I believe by using technology itself, we can actually solve the problem. I will share something which my Associate Dean of Languages, Miss Julia, shared with us in the classroom. she actually suggested, like for my UC, we use Google Meet for our online classes. In Google Meet, we have this kind of rooms. So the students can have mini rooms for them to have their own discussion. And when I used it last semester, I discovered that the students, they became closer to each other, and I could also pop in the discussion rooms to talk to them. I think maybe in a way, this technology does help us to get closer to the learners, because the students find it maybe this is something they like doing, and they feel that the teacher actually cares for them, because when I check on them in the discussion, they respond. Okay, but I must say yes, there is a gap. Okay. The next question is by Javi Mase. How could we manage the class if there's no electricity? Good question. Difficult. It's very difficult. For online classes, let's just pray that our handphones and our laptop batteries will last us for the whole lesson. But for physical classrooms, I remember I will have outdoor classes for them. Usually my colleagues will cancel their classes when there is no electricity. But what I will do is I bring them out for an outdoor class. And of course, sometimes the kids will complain it's hot, there are mosquitoes, and so on and so forth. But I will continue teaching, and I will try to make them appreciate the fact that they're actually having their classes and learning in a different setting. Okay, the next question is, tell us about the most difficult change you had to face. Okay, I would say having to pursue my postgrad studies. That was the most difficult change. I am a coward, right? When I graduated, I told myself that, okay, I will only have my bachelor's degree and I'm not going to pursue any more degrees. That's it. I will retire having my BA. That's it. However, the world changes at a very frightening pace. And then in Malaysia, there are so many universities being set up, and then so many colleges being upgraded to universities and colleges. And I was told, you have to further your studies. And I thank God for my family members who are very supportive. They will keep on telling me, reminding me to do it. It was a struggle. And when I was doing my master's, I was a coordinator for my department. I faced so much stress. It was really, really difficult. But thank God I managed to get my master's. But while I was pursuing my PhD, I faced some issues because my topic was rejected a number of times. And I thank God that at that time, I was allowed to step down from my coordinator post, and I managed to get my PhD. I would say struggling to do my work well, and struggling to do my research, struggling to go to the libraries to get my materials for reading, struggling to do my data was just, I would say, it's not that bad, but when I was there, I feel as though I was in a pressure cooker. But looking back, it helps me to build up my character. So I don't give up so easily. Okay, this is from Gulshan. To what extent pedagogical skills affect upon learning deficiencies? I'm not sure. Is this the question that I answered just now?
I think you answered that question, Dr.
Yes, you have already answered the question. Firstly, I have written it, and then I was allowed to speak. So it's the same question.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Neha Umar, what are the best ways through which L2 can be taught in the class? I would say I'm still figuring it out. In the past, when I started teaching English, when I was just fresh from university, I would say that making them use the language in the classroom actually helped them. And when they do not use English so often, I will try to use some kind of creative ways to get them to use it by finding them, and then by making them learn a poem or learn an English song and come to class and perform. But right now, I've discovered another problem which English teachers face. I cannot totally stop them from using other languages in the classroom, because when you read their messages that they post on the internet, they are mostly ungrammatical, and they will, like in Malaysia, they do mix it with different languages like Malay or Chinese and so on. So it is a challenge right now to get them to actually read in pure kind of English structures. Right now, I would say they still need to practice the language, yes. But the challenge is they might just turn around and tell me, I can function very well in my social media this way. Why must I change? It's a struggle, I think, for all of us teachers to make them see how relevant it is. Okay. Are there any more?
Ms. Lubna, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Lubna Ben Nasser. If you have a question, you can just unmute yourself and ask your question. Well, Mr. Mubarak seems to be ready. Mr. Mubarak Ali, if you have a question, you can just ask.
Thanks for the wonderful opportunity. Hello.
Hello.
Are you hearing my voice, ma'am?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thanks for the insightful and inspiring session, madam. And I wish to extend my thanks to the organizer for giving this wonderful opportunity. My question, madam, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
Okay.
Thank you.
Share with you. Okay, I will share with you what I actually learned when I was collecting data for my PhD. I believe I told you that I faced problems midway my PhD studies. My research topic was changed after 3 years of working on it. And when I discussed with a friend, she gave me ideas as to how to collect data and being a dinosaur. She told me that I should not be recording my students' interactions using cassette players, using tapes, and so on and so forth. I need to learn how to use an IC recorder, and I need to know how to manage a video camera. And for a dinosaur like me, it was like a near cardiac arrest experience for me. I had to read from the manual, and then I had to learn how to charge the battery of that video camera, and I had to learn how to use the IC recorder, and then I need to know how to save all the recordings in my laptop. That was really, really scary when I first started, because the nightmare was, what if I lose everything? But thank God I didn't. As time goes by, I pick up, and I managed to save all my data in my laptop successfully, and I managed to write my thesis. And I remember one of my students even complimented me. He asked me this question, Miss, you know how to do this? Because to him, it's like, how can you at your age handle that? So I would say, yeah, that was the first time and the last time I did something really scary. Okay.
Thanks a lot, madam. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
We relate a lot with your experiences, Dr. Lin. I think we just cannot separate ourselves from these experiences. And it is really, you're reminding us of many things.
Oh, thank you.
Really, really impressive. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, she'll be happy to ask the questions if you have any.
I'd like to ask Dr. Teresa a question.
Oh, hi there, Razia.
Hi. Hi, Dr. Teresa.
Hi.
How do you keep yourself sane, in front of the laptop for endless hours in a day? How do you keep yourself sane? I get eye fatigue and laptop fatigue, and I feel like throwing my laptop to the wall. But how do you keep it? How do you keep motivated? How do you keep yourself enthusiastic to face your classes? Sometimes we have 6 hours in a day, in front talking to one box. Talking to the camera of the laptop, one small hole like that. So how do you keep yourself motivated? Thank you.
Oh, okay. That's Miss Razia, my deputy dean in my faculty. All right. I don't really have a kind of 100% accurate answer for that. But for me personally, what I'll do is I listen to many motivational talks and also songs. And then I do pray about the challenges I face. And I will always make sure that I try to be positive. It's difficult. It's a daily challenge for me. Like there are times, I think Razia too, we have shared of our interesting quiet students in the classroom. But I'm talking to them, they would not respond. But I will often say this, the next class will be better. And then when I discuss with colleagues on the problems they face, if they are like mine, I will say that, oh, the problem could be them, it's not me. But I will also need to reflect as to how I can continue to improve on my practices. I cannot say that, oh, I'm going to retire next month, therefore I'm a good teacher. No, I'm still learning. And I think all of us teachers will have to find something that we could actually focus on. It could be a hobby, it could be a pet maybe, it could be something that you like to do. See that time as helping you to de-stress. Like for me, I de-stress by reading. Whenever I feel really upset about things, I will bury myself in my books. So when I read, I'm transported into another world and I'm learning new things. So that's me. That's how I handle it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Teresa.
Oh, you're welcome, Ms. Razia. Lobna, you have a question?
Thank you, Doctor, for this interesting, insightful presentation. Actually, there's a point that you raised and that confirms my concept of teaching and the teacher's role, which is about the role of the teacher not only to provide information or to teach learners how to learn, but also as a coach, actually, if I may use this word. So, talking about this, I think emotional intelligence is one asset that teachers should really have in order to be able to understand their learners and, of course, maybe do this role not only as a teacher but also as a coach. So do you think emotional intelligence is worth being taught to teachers, especially novice teachers, or to be included in the CPD agenda? Thank you.
Actually, you are right. Emotional intelligence is very important. We may have knowledge, but if we are unable to relate to the learners, it serves no purpose. I remember there was one professor who actually shared in his paper presentation in a conference in Penang a number of years back. He asked us this question. If you cannot get along with your learners, how will you make sure your learners learn from you? It is when you form a bond with your learners, they will feel motivated, they want to learn more from you. But if you are going to show to them that I'm here, I know this much, you are down there, you know next to nothing, and they feel that you're looking down on them, it will not work. We may have strings and strings of degrees, but then we are not effective. Yes, you're right. EQ is very important.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Riyas. Riyas, are you there?
Yes, yes, ma'am. I am very much here. May I put my question?
Please, you can ask her your question.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. My question is that when we are talking about the classroom, so now switching over to virtual classrooms, practically speaking, it seems at times a bit difficult to get the interest of students and the motivation of the students up to that scale, which we usually get in physical classrooms. May you please throw some light on it?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, it's a challenge for us to get our learners to be engaged in online classrooms. I think all of us will have to really get into that, how should I say? We should imagine ourselves as our learners and to understand what makes them tick. If my learners like social media, maybe what I can do is I could have a discussion topic based on a topic which is in the social media, right? If my learners like to, okay, I must share this. I found that my students, they love to type in the chat box when I'm teaching. So I will often ask them questions and let them type in the chat box, and then using the input from their opinions in the chat boxes, then we'll have a time of discussion. Maybe what we can do is we have to get them to participate more. If they like to chat, they like to type out things, maybe get them active in chat boxes, or even our topic of discussion in the classroom, it can be based on topics or news which have appeared in Facebook, the social media, right? We just have to get to the state of understanding what make these learners tick. When they attend online classes, what are they looking forward to? Like, we also need to have a change in the way we regard entertainment. Like, not sadly, I would say that the learners today, the young generation, is very different from us. Like for me, when I was studying, I do not see the relevance of having videos or movies in my classroom. I would say the lecturer is actually wasting my time. But for these young learners, they love it. And they are able to relate to you better when they see you trying to get into their little world. The teachers will have to get into the world of the learners in order to know how to get them to want to learn from us. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Riyas?
Yes, sir, ma'am.
Yeah. And thanks a lot for all the people who have attended this, and it was a wonderful conference. Around 175 attendees were there from across the world, and that was really, really impressive. And it was a kind of eye-opener in certain areas. Maybe, youngsters who joined this session who were new to the experiences, I'm sure they must have got a lot of wisdom from this. Thank you so much, dear friends, international friends, and thank you, Dr. Lin, for your wonderful presentation. Thanks a lot.
Do we have a question?
Ms. Farzana has a question.
Oh, I could see a raised hand, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I guess there's no question then.
Hello, everyone. Am I hearing?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Am I audible to all you?
Yes, Ms. Farzana, you're audible.
Thank you so much for giving me opportunity as being here and for asking the questions. I'm very happy I'm hearing you people's, as it's very interesting lecture as Madam Teresa was giving and the peoples who are here with us. So basically, I did want to ask about research as 4 examples how we must have to implement these sort of the things for our students and the field, like on the basis of the research based study in the classroom.
Sorry, could you repeat your question? I can't really hear you.
Am I audible?
Not very clear from my side. Could you repeat your question?
Am I audible?
Now I can hear you, yeah. Could you repeat your question?
Ms. Farzana, could you please repeat the question? You're audible. I think there is some technical glitch there.
Oh, Riyas, do you want to type out your question? Because I can't really hear you.
Well, those who have questions, they can just type their questions. I think she will definitely get back with her answers to those questions. Could you please type them in the chat box? I think that's better. And thanks a lot, Dr. Lin, and thank you, dear friends.
Welcome.
And if you have any questions again, please leave your questions in the chat box. And there is also a link for feedback and attendance. Could you please fill in those 2 forms so that we will have the record with us? And the recording, the slides, everything will be sent in 6 business days. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thanks.